Hello, Strat fans. Welcome to Strat-O-logy, the show for and by students of Strat-O-Matic. I'm your host, Jimmy James. Today on the show, we'll give you the finalists in the 2021 Mystery Tournament. We will have the second half of our Sir Strat about trades. And on Strat Chat, we have a very special treat. John Garcia from Strat-O-Matic. So, sit back, grab your cards and dice, and let's roll.
Tournament play.
Last week in the Mystery Tournament, we pretty well knew who was going to be in. 10 of the 12 spots were set, and there were 3 teams fighting it out for the last one. In the playoffs for Event 5 semifinals, Jimmy C faced off against Emberati 76, and Pushpin 76 faced off against Moody Mets. Both Moody Mets and Emberati 76 went up 3-1 after the first 2 days. But, devastatingly, Pushpin and Jimmy C came back over the last 3 days and won each of those games to take the finals in League 1 and 2 of Event 5. So, that gives us our final 12, because Moody Mets needed to win to take a spot. So that left those final 2 spots to Emberati 76 and Pushpin 76. So the final standings after all 5 events and what will set the draft order. In first place, Frankie 35. In second, Gritch. In third, F. Aaron. Fourth, Jimmy C. Fifth, Holla Rose. Sixth, Jimmy James 209. Seventh, Yugoslavin. Tied for 8th, Pushpin 76 and Master Moser 56. In 10th, Lee 300. In 11th, Rigged Splits. And in the last spot, Emberati 76. The votes have also been done by those 12 players to find out what the last final round will be. The votes came in with the set being 1960s. An $80 million salary cap, no DH. Unique stadiums, they'll also be drafted. You can use the stadium that you used in Event 1. The divisions will be random, and there will be a full live draft. Okay, well, more back after this.
You're listening to the 365 Sportscast Network, the streaming future of sports talk radio. Listen to us round the clock on the net over 365sportscast.com. On your phone with the 365 Sportscast app, and on your favorite smart speaker by enabling the 365 Sportscast skill and saying, "Play 365 Sports." The views, opinions, and content of the show hosts and their guests appearing are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of 365 Sportscast LLC, its owners and partners, or this network.
Sir Strat of the Roundtable.
So I'll talk myself into some of these trades, and I'll explain, hey, and I'll go to the Rafael Betancourt. I mean, hey, like I did my analysis. I really think it's this card. I think Gagne is on his best card, but yada yada yada. I don't think you're going to be able to play him right. You need middle relief. You don't need a closer. And I didn't necessarily lie to him. I was pretty upfront. The Betancourt card ended up, it was the worst of the 2 cards I thought it was. But I mean, I wasn't noticeably deceptive. And again, I submitted the trade to him knowing he would decline it. And then he just accepted it.
Yeah.
So good for me. That's, again, if it's intentional, like if you know there's somebody who doesn't know how to read the mystery cards and you blatantly lie to somebody and said, hey, I know that I had an injury reveal and this is his best season, and blatantly it's not. I'm not okay with that. I didn't. I've never intentionally deceived somebody. Again, I can talk somebody into this. What can I do to get you into this card today? I've done quite a bit of that, but
and it's the intent also on the other side. Like Dave was saying, if the guy's 20 and 45 and his intent is to get better, and he just does it in a poor way, that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. But if on the other side he's ditching those guys because he's hacked off because I've lost 9 in a row.
Yeah.
Now he's affecting the league, and it becomes very easy for the league to be warped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in this trade, the guy that you traded with obviously has played a long time.
Right.
He's played a long time. I can pretty much, there's no rational reason for that. That trade, there's nobody, I don't think, that could look at that trade and say, yes, I would do that in that situation.
I know. I wouldn't do it. I loved it.
Anyone that had Gagne would be like, there's no way in hell they're going to do it, especially with Betancourt stats. And you look at it, you knew Gagne had one of the 3 better cards, 0.91 or under. So he definitely was a stud, period. There was no question about that. Betancourt was kind of like, he walked a lot of guys. I remember going through that for some reason, and he never walked guys. But it was kind of like he was playing the 136, maybe the 117 at best. But regardless, he probably just looked at it and said, all right, accept. You know what I mean? Screw it. And then that's when okay, you got to look into this. You got to look into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I had Gagne in the ATG last time, and I knew the card. It wasn't a mystery deck. Somebody asked me for the trade, and I got mad again, trying to rip me off, and I just hit decline because I knew the card. But that's what you were saying, Peter, about guys can read cards and guys can't. I've gotten a lot better at studying players and reading cards, and I'll bounce some things off at you guys, and what do you think of this card and that card? So if somebody comes to me in this season we're playing and says, I want to trade you Dusty Baker, I'm going to say, what, a 142 card? He's been with 5 teams already. So, everybody keeps picking this dude up. They're obviously not reading the cards. If you got injured, the first game of the season, so it was very easy in the 70s, as Charles said in a side conversation, the 70s are a lot easier to read. I'm in a 2000 deck now, and I had an injury last night, and they're all hit by pitch, right? This one, it seems like it's a variant injury on all 5 different possibilities or different injuries.
Right.
So knowing the cards, at that point, that's helpful to know the cards.
Well, on the Baker card, actually, I love using that Baker card, and I love using the 80s Baker card, because that 70s Baker card, he's a line out for 4 years, and it's a ground out the 1 year. And because 4 years are great, and 1 year is terrible. And that terrible, he's also a 4 injury. And it's the only one he can get on a ground out. So it's easily pulled off. So, and anybody playing that, anybody that's picked up that card should have known that it's his bottom of the barrel year. Because it's probably the easiest card to read.
So in terms of reading your opponent,
his with his 15.
Well, in terms of reading your opponents, so I know I check the injuries every day. So I know that Baker's on his worst card. And I see who picks him up. It's like, well, maybe I can make a trade with that.
Good point.
So, and on the other side of it, 2 seasons ago, I blatantly misread an Andy Van Slyke card.
Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, you did.
I know. Everybody knows it. But nobody's told me. I screwed myself up that season. And that whole trade was a snowball effect, and I didn't recover. Nobody told me, hey man, you misread that card. Everybody kind of was glad I had that one coming. But
glad you said
but again, I just misread the card, and I suffered my fate because of it, and it was what it was. You can't dictate or you can't fix or legislate stupid. We have a wonderful group of guys in our 2014 league, but there are some guys who just don't know how to read mystery cards.
Exactly.
And I can read them very well, and I can use that to my advantage. And again, this is a game where we want to win. I don't know about you guys, but I don't wait up every night to watch my teams and say, man, I really hope I lose lose 3 out of 9.
No, I hear you there.
I got a suggestion. I mean, and you guys pretty much know me at this point that I'm not going to bring up anything that's not going to be, completely like this is BS. There's going to be something behind it, when I bring it up. So I think when I'm next time, I think if anything happens like this, instead of going to the whole thing, like just posting it and just bringing everybody into it, just kind of look and say like that. But you're right. There's nothing we can do about it. And the other thing, which I thought you guys were going to bring up, is the free agents, the people that don't know how to read the cards. They'll cut somebody. That's in some way, that's just as bad.
Yeah.
It's out there for everybody to see. I picked up, Ellis Burke. He had 1,000. He clearly had 1,030 card, whatever it was in the 2000s or whatever. And he had an injury and everything. It was blatant. And the guy caught him.
I was on the phone with Dave that night. He goes, "Wait a minute." I said, "Dave, what happened to you? Why are you speechless?" And he
I'm picking
this up. Hold on.
Yeah, and I picked it up. So again, that's part of it too. You know what I mean? We can't again, you can't legislate stupid, as you said, Peter. You know what I mean? You can't, if people are going to do that, it's almost like I wish we could have like a class or something. Like, okay, here's how you read a card, but to Charles's thing, Charles will say like, the hell with them. Let them figure out themselves.
Yeah.
Well,
I kind of agree with Charles there.
Yeah, I can see, or Tim.
You go to the Strat bulletin board, which is right on the there's a whole thread that says how to read mystery cards. I've given people the link. Now we're in this Facebook group together, which is a lot of fun. And I'm in a league with somebody else in a different league, and he's saying like, "Can someone help me read cards?" I'm like, "Screw that, man! I'm competing with him. I don't want you guys to help him."
Tim, that's the guy in our league. I can't remember who it was. He's in our league, and he does pretty decent. I can't remember the name. Yes, that's our league. And he keeps.
I think it's.
Or does he use it for our league or whatever the case is? But when I saw that on Facebook, I was like, this guy has been in our league for how many years?
I think his name is Help Me, Mick Help Me.
Yeah, really. So, yeah, stuff like that. It's like when you see a guy in that long, it's like,
yeah. And when I see a guy like that, I see, man, I can't wait to trade with that guy. Like, come on, let's go. Like, and that's how it is. And I'm real sorry. Like, and again, I'm not trying to. I'm not trying, but I'm sounding like a heel. But there was a couple of guys that used to be in our league that I know I traded with, and I talked them into a trade that helped me and made them mean worse, a lot worse. And it was a couple of years ago or a couple seasons ago where I essentially traded his entire front line, his number one pitcher, his number one reliever, his number one outfielder, and I gave him all my number 3 guys. And I ended up winning 94 games, losing in the first round of the playoffs again. But it was a great trade.
Klein for, who was it? It was like a middle of the road outfielder. And Klein seems to be on his 107 or 109 card, statistically. And I couldn't believe he traded him, but now both these teams are in contention, so I'm kind of like, okay, whatever, you do whatever you want, But it's early in the season too, of course. But yeah, that's my bottom line. You heard my piece. And you know what? I'm not going to say anything anymore. I may bring it up to somebody, but I'm not going to explode it out there like on Facebook, and then all of a sudden people all get into it, and then we have a big.
Oh, we'll bait you, of course.
We could. Listen, and for the record, I loved that back and forth. I relish it. I like to be controversial by nature. That's just who I am. But I didn't. Again, like I said, I was insulted for like 5 minutes, and I was like, first of all, it's just Strat-O-Matic, and then second of all, no, you put your opinion out there, and that was the whole. I think that's the beauty of our league, and that's the beauty of this. Even this forum, like you and I obviously see. We're on the complete opposite sides of this, but I love competing against you I love competing against you.
Absolutely. And that's why we have a core in here, and I know that the people aren't going to, we have our best, the league we want the league to keep going and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't have any problem with that. And it wasn't, I said it many times, it wouldn't have been anybody who would have tried to trade that. I'd have been like, wait a minute, you know what I mean?
And
if I have a bad year, it's on me. It's what I have done with my team. It's not because I got ripped off in a trade. I made 4 preseason trades this season. One of them was with Peter. And it was a 4 for 4, and I have none of those guys on my roster, and he's got all 4 on his roster.
You and I actually made one too.
But I'm in first place, tied for first, and Peter's team's not doing all that great. And I did a trade with Tony as well in the preseason, and that one was kind of a wash. It was kind of except he ended up with Merv Redmond and
218 card. Just 218 card.
Yeah.
Not worth $6.5 million, even though the on base percentage was pretty good.
So I think I won that trade.
Redmond's playing for somebody else now, though, even though it's a 218 card. So
he's batting 125 on his new team.
Yeah, so there you go. He's gonna hit
218. Someone who couldn't read the card.
Exactly.
All right, so we just got a couple more minutes here, real quick. The other question we talked about is why do you think trading is underutilized? Now, in a 12-man league, I don't think it's that important. But, when we're talking in a 24-man league, I do think trading becomes much more relevant. And why do you think more people don't do it? Because, once you get to that 10% penalty, there's not a lot of upgrade there. So what about you, Peter? Why do you think it's underutilized? We'll go fairly quick.
No, I mean, people just don't want to give up good stuff. I mean, so more times than not, when you're trading, anybody who's playing, in a lot of these leagues, they're fairly knowledgeable. I mean, we just talked about people who aren't knowledgeable, but most of the people are fairly knowledgeable. I can't tell you how many times I proposed a trade and somebody just responded back like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, there's no way. And so people are hesitant to make those trades, or even propose those trades because they don't want to deal with that interaction. And then B, we're in a fantasy sports world. We're in a drop ad environment. Everybody thinks that they can just drop somebody and pick up the winning player, and that's their only mentality. They don't even think trading is an option. In fact, this first or second season we played as a group, there were some novices. They didn't know trading was an option.
Yeah,
so
that is like making it a lot more like fantasy baseball.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Dave? Why do you think they are underutilized?
Well, first of all, I got people like me who rarely trade. We figure that I like to try to figure it out. I think it's not free agents, like I said before. I think people don't have the knowledge. So if you don't have the knowledge about something, you're more apprehensive to make a move there. So if you're kind of like, this guy, if I don't know enough about the cards, reading the cards, then I'm not going to trade somebody because I really don't know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. But, and I think it is the fear. It's the fear of getting ripped off. Nobody wants to do that. And it's easier. Now you could pick up a free agent, lose 10% or 20%, and that guy stinks. But that's okay because no one's going to yell at you for doing that. You know what I mean? But if someone head to head does that to you, then it's like, oh, wait a minute, he screwed me over. You know what I mean? So it's a lot different than just picking up free agents. That's my mind.
I think there's a big piece to that is not wanting to have that confrontation or wanting to have that interaction to make that move. What about you, Sir Tony? What do you think?
I just think it's a variance of opinions. I just think, like, when I offer somebody a trade, we just got done saying, I'm offering value for value or something that could help me might help him, and maybe they're not trusting the fact that I'm being honest. Like that Redmond card. I could have easily threw that Redmond card out there and put him around the league. I would have had 3 or 4 takers, but in good faith, I knew it was a bad card, so it was easier for me just to cut the guy and then it's buyer beware from there. But I just think, like I said, not a lot of people trust the fact that these trades are actually valued and that they could actually help somebody. They're looking at it in terms of, I don't want to get ripped off, and that's the thing. And I'm an honest guy, maybe too honest, and like I said, I wouldn't offer this Redmond card because it's a 218 card. That would be like blatant, me knowing something that somebody else didn't. So it's easier for me to release that guy. But at the end of the day, I don't mind entertaining some trades. It's hard to make them because other people don't want to do it. And I know that's the question, what this question is. And I think because maybe they're fearful, like everyone said, that they're going to get ripped off because you don't lose your 10% in these trades, right? So even if you take a whim, if you take a risk at one, it may work out. Look at the one that was Canseco for A-Rod, which was a 285 card, which is one of his worst, but it's still A-Rod 285, and he hit 40 home runs for that guy, and he got Canseco off me in that trade too. I got Tony Gwynn and Omar Vizquel back, right? Helped me, helped him. I made the playoffs, he didn't. I mean, but I didn't foresee Canseco as an everyday right fielder like he did. So it was the way he visioned what that trade was going to look like. You know what I mean? And maybe that's what people are thinking.
Very cool. What about you, Sir Charles? What do you think? Why do you think that more people are afraid or just not as willing to trade?
I don't think that that's the case. I offer and offer until I get trades, and I get a lot of accepted trades because I think what I offer tends to be fair. Or I'll look at the player that he has that I think is underperforming, and more than likely they'll end up dropping them later. But like, for example, later this season I made a trade that had Claude Osteen I received, and I gave Wilbur Wood, and I knew that even though Wilbur Wood's salary was like $2 million more, I was on a Wilbur Wood card that was a 2 seasons at a 1.3 whip. And so Osteen does not have any seasons above 1.28. So in good faith, I dumped some salary, and I believe I got a better pitcher. Neither pitcher's doing well, but I still think it's a good trade.
Very cool. Very cool. So you're on the other side of the whole opinion. That it's just that it's all about the fact that they're not taking them because they aren't good deals.
Yeah, I mean, I think I often feel that I think there's also people that just kind of sit on trades and don't decline them. They're waiting for injury reveals, much like fantasy baseball, and then they'll hit yes once they discover what the cards are. And I don't play that.
Yeah. Well, that's
somebody does offer me a trade, and I got two of them. Early last week, and by the time I got to them, they were already taken back. So I will hit decline when I look at it, but it was within a day. It was within 24 hours. So I'm not sitting on them. I just want you guys to know that I don't sit on trades. If I don't want it, I'll hit decline, and 95% of the time I'm gonna hit decline anyway. So
yeah.
The trade actually I was one of those.
Yeah.
And I didn't pull the trade back. I had Eddie Watt on another deal, and that was accepted, so that automatically invalidates the.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Often that, and it's one of those things. I think you got to be conscious of pulling it back if you're in a negotiation with somebody else, and you think I'm making this deal over here, and all of a sudden you turn back around and you don't got that player to trade anymore.
Well, it's much easier and much more fun if there's no reveals on the cards. For example, the Eddie Watt card, my belief was it a bad card, but once my opponent had him, his whip is 1.03 for the team I traded to, so I didn't misread the card. I was playing the odds, and I misread the odds of the card. And, sometimes that happens, but that's fun. I enjoy seeing the players that I trade or release, how they do once they're picked up, especially if there's no injury review.
It's funny you said that, though, to one more quick point. Like that Gwynn trade also included Kevin Bass. Well, I misread that card the whole season, and it turned out that I was totally wrong, and he had such a great year, but he went against the odds. So what did I have, Dave? A heavy lefty card. He was hitting righties way better, and I was convinced it was one card or the other, and I got lucky. Right, Dave? I got flat out lucky.
Oh, you did. It worked.
I misread it. I kind of thought statistically the way he was playing, it was one card, and it turned out to be totally opposite. He just played way above the card.
Yep.
Very cool, guys. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Sir Tony, Sir Dave, Sir Peter, and Sir Charles.
All right.
We'll be back after this.
Thank you.
You're listening to the 365 Sportscast Network, the streaming future of sports talk radio. Listen to us round the clock on the net over 365sportscast.com. On your phone with the 365 Sportscast app, and on your favorite smart speaker by enabling the 365 Sportscast skill and saying, "Play 365 Sports." The views, opinions, and content of the show hosts and their guests appearing are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of 365 Sportscast LLC, its owners and partners, or this network.
Hello, we're back with Strat Chat. I am here with John Garcia from Strat-O-Matic. How are you, John?
I am good, James. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
no problem. Thanks for having me.
So, what is your position at Strat-O-Matic, John?
I am the Chief Content Officer, which is a lot.
Well, explain it to us a little bit. What all do you do for Strat-O-Matic?
So I create the cards for baseball, basketball, and hockey. I manage a 365 game. I am the head of the Strat Content Division, which I think we'll talk about later. Do a lot of everything, but everybody at Strat-O-Matic does. We all wear a lot of hats, so.
It's one of those things when you are in a small company that it often is that way, where everybody has to wear lots of hats and lots of teamwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How long have you been at Strat?
Just about 10 years now. I grew up playing Strat-O-Matic, just kind of like everybody else has. And I went to the 50th anniversary as a customer, and I ended up talking to somebody online who was friends with the Richmond family. And I was graduating college that year, and I made a joke to him, now if I can get a job at Strat-O-Matic. So he gave me somebody's name, and I went down and talked to Hal's son, who I talked about how I had created these. Played in a bunch of Strat-O-Matic leagues for a long time. I was a commissioner of a net play league at the time. He took down my information. A couple months later, he said, "I'm sorry, we don't have any openings." But I went back to him. I wasn't okay with that, so they posted an internship that I didn't really qualify for, as I already graduated college at the time. But I wanted to make sure that they remembered me and found a spot for me. So they created a little opening for me. They had one. James Williams had retired a couple of months prior, and Steve Barkin was potentially retiring close to then. So they brought me in and worked out. They kept me on since then. So
Yeah, 10 years later.
10 years later.
That's wonderful. Well, did you do anything in college that kind of fit into where you were going in math or in sports?
Yeah, math and statistics. So I was always a Strat-O-Matic person. I was always a math person growing up, and I'm sure Strat-O-Matic helped with that too.
Oh, yeah.
But
definitely. I grew up. My dad did a lot of that type of stuff for us. He was into fantasy baseball back in the 70s. My dad had Asperger's and was super mathematician and would set up leagues for the whole neighborhood, and so nobody even knew what we were doing because it was so brand new, even fantasy baseball type of stuff. And we got Strat-O-Matic and in the 80s, and he did so much for setting us up for Strat-O-Matic leagues in our neighborhood and everything, and it was just a great introduction to the game.
There was a game that I played before. Now I'm a lot younger than a lot of other kids. So I used to play Showdown prior to playing Strat-O-Matic, and that was kind of a basic game, but had a 20-sided die. And so it was just me, my brother, and my dad, and the three of us would play in a league. We draft. I think we all had two teams each, like an American League and a National League team. So, but I would create the schedule. I keep all the statistics. And once I found Strat-O-Matic, I could never play another Showdown game again because it was so watered down. Strat-O-Matic had absolutely everything that I had wanted. And I was creating my own Showdown cards at the time just to try to improve the realism and stuff. But once I found Strat-O-Matic, there was no looking back.
I was one of the classic guys. I can say I was the spinner. I had the spinner, and I forget who the pitcher was, But it was like you didn't want Sandy Koufax as your pitcher because his spot on the spinner was so small, and there was like, some Pete Vukovich or something that was like really big that was a good hitting pitcher. You're like, oh, I gotta have that pitcher, the good hitting pitcher, So that's what really led us into it, and we would keep stats when we were playing video game baseball games and stuff like that. So Strat-O-Matic really led into that for us, I think, too, in a very similar way. So that's very cool that you did that with your dad. Does he play Strat-O-Matic himself now?
No, I never got him into Strat-O-Matic. I don't know why. I'm trying to think. I was probably 11 or 12 when I started playing Strat-O-Matic then. But I used to play all these my own draft league. I had a 16 team draft league that I had solo draft league with the cards, and everybody in my family thought I was crazy playing this made up game, and who knew what it was. And then I ended up with a job there. I couldn't believe it.
That's one of the amazing stories in the game. The idea that you can take something that you love and turn it into your life. I mean, you're working at a company where that's the main story.
Yeah.
And you're just a continuation of that. That's really wonderful, John. Really wonderful. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about today is I have a friend who is a teacher that's going to come onto the show in a future episode, and he's going to start using Strat-O-Matic in his classroom. And while I was looking on the Strat-O-Matic website, I had noticed that there were education programs and after-school programs that you guys had, and I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah, so teachers have been using Strat-O-Matic as a kind of a teaching tool for a long time. Probably 6 or 7 years ago, we came out with the after-school program to give them teachers discounts on games for clubs or after-school clubs. And I mean, I mentioned earlier that I am a math guy, and I think Strat-O-Matic helped me with math, one way or the other. But it's kind of used the same way. Strat-O-Matic is really it is all math, but in the guise of a game. You don't necessarily know that while you're doing it. So we've gotten lesson plans from teachers, and we've created our own little quick videos, kind of how to use it as a teaching tool with the more detailed lesson plans that we have. But it's perfect, especially for middle schoolers. I mean, rolling the dice repetitively, and it just gets math in your head, 4 + 3, even if it's just basic elementary school, middle school stuff, but it just keeps on that math reminder and math repetitiveness in your head. So not just rolling the dice, but reading the cards. And when we came out that Baseball Express game just about 10 years ago now also, and before we had come out with that, it was tested at elementary schools, a couple of elementary school classes. I forget what grade they were, probably third grade or so. And the stolen base, the probability of a stolen base. And these kids are sitting there and calculating the percentage that he's going to be safe, and is it worth the risk? And just that kind of game aspect of Strat-O-Matic is really a teaching tool. It's the risk reward of something, and they're calculating percentages just out of a 1 to 20 number. It's a pretty cool way to get people engaged with mathematics that wouldn't necessarily do that.
When you first started talking and you were talking about the simple math, that's one of the first things was the probability was what kind of just hit was first thing that kind of hit my head when you started talking about teaching. A 2% chance is more than you think it is. That type of thing. That 2% never happens or 5% never happens. Well, 5% happens a whole lot more than you think.
Yeah, especially if it's 20. Yeah.
Yeah. My son, who loves the game, and when he's describing it to his buddies, he says it's Dungeons and Dragons for us baseball nerds. It's that same concept of I'm going to use probabilities and I'm going to use my imagination. And I think that's a secondary thing, other than just the math side. It's the imagination.
Yeah. Strat-O-Matic has a way, I feel like, unlike other games, and that you can watch these players in your head. The way that the ratings work, the way that the X chart works, just you can see these plays happen before you in your mind. The other thing that for the after school program is the history of baseball too. I mean, we have for the Windows game, we have seasons back to 1871, but cards back to 1911 and American history with all of our Negro League sets. You can learn about those players. It's pretty cool. It's used for more than math, certainly, but it's a pretty cool way to engage kids.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect, and I think, again, my son is kind of a good example of that. How many 13-year-olds' favorite pitchers are Smokey Joe Wood and Three Finger Brown? And those, he loves those guys, He sit there, he'll tell you their whole story, I think that's one of the things about baseball, that connection to its own history too. I didn't even think about that aspect. I think that's a great point, is that tie into history. I love the connections you guys have with the Negro League Museum too. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it was great to connect with them last year, at the beginning of last year, which was the 100th year anniversary of the beginning of the Negro Leagues or the Negro National League that Rube Foster created. And we actually had an event that we had planned with them that we were not able to do because of COVID. That would have been pretty cool, but we are donating 10% of all sales from any Negro Leagues products that we have to the museum. And it's really great organization, a great place to keep the Negro Leagues history alive, and all the players' legacies out into baseball fans. And with the MLB's announcement in the fall that the Negro Leagues are going to be treated as major leagues, I know that was a very great thing for them to hear. Even surprising to the museum itself at the time that it came out. They weren't expecting it.
Oh,
but yeah, but it's it's a great thing. It's a long time past that these guys get their recognition.
I agree completely. And Strat-O-Matic is a wonderful way to learn about who some of these great Negro League players were. And because you can use them in the sets alongside the guys that you already know, and when you just get to see some of the things that Oscar Charleston or some people like that could do, it is just, we all know, Josh Gibson. That I had never heard of Turkey Stearns before, and if you don't know who Turkey Stearns is, dude, you missed out.
And we talked about the imagination of the game and what Strat-O-Matic does. You look at a picture of these players, and now you see the Strat-O-Matic card, and you can envision them playing in the field against these other great players. It's one great aspect of Strat-O-Matic is to picture these players, and the Negro League Stars set that Scott Simkus did the research on almost a little over 10 years ago now. It was just such an important thing, and I know that's the set that Hal Richmond is most proud of to have created. That Negro League Star set to kind of bring these players to life in a way that only Strat-O-Matic can.
I don't think there's anything else out there that does anything close to that for the Negro Leagues, that really can get you in there. I don't think anything in the video game realm or anything else in the board game realm has even come close to that. Like you said, where else are you going to be able to play Josh Gibson against Babe Ruth? I can't think of any other place that you can do that, and I think that's pretty amazing. We want to talk about one more thing today. Let's talk about the new program, Strat Content.
Yeah, and it kind of piggybacks right off that last conversation. Where else can you play Josh Gibson against Babe Ruth? Well, this Strat Content program is simulations and simulating that kind of different scenarios. We've partnered with different companies like NBC Sports, Boston, Marquee Network, the Cubs television network, various other places that we've done simulations for, but we're running a weekly series for NBC Sports, a different Boston simulation. We've done, the first one we did was simulating Tom Brady with the 2020 Patriots and how it would have looked. I believe we actually had them going to the AFC Championship game where they lost to the Chiefs. We ran Julio Jones on the 2021 Patriots before we got traded to Tennessee. We've done what if Dustin Pedroia was healthy? How would the rest of his career have looked like? We had him actually playing into 2021 before getting cut or retiring halfway through April. We've done, I'm trying to think of some of the others here. For Marquee, I know we've done this pretty cool sim actually for them. during this season, we've run an all-time Cubs team as selected by their broadcaster against an all-time team of every opponent they've played this season, selected by the other broadcaster.
Oh, very cool.
Best 9 position players plus a couple of bench players against kind of a Game 7 scenario all year. So that's been a pretty cool thing that they've run in game during their broadcast. I know last year we had Ryan Dempster was broadcasting a game for them, so we did Dempster against the 1927 Yankees. He didn't really pitch great in that one, but it was on the Cubs broadcast during the game. They had talked about it. We've done for Yes Network recently, or for Michael K specifically. He was talking about the 1986 Mets team against the 1998 Yankees.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so we ran a simulation that he talked about on air, and the Strat content really came around last year. We had done World Series sims for the past couple of years, ever since we had Baseball Daily. And they've generally been pretty accurate. I know the first year we did it was 2015, and we had that Matt Harvey game. His exact stat line through 7 innings, same number of hits. We were off by 1 strikeout, but we pulled him after 7. Terry Collins left him in. We know how that happened. Mm-hmm. You know what happened after that, but pretty amazingly accurate in the stats for the World Series. So with the 2020 season, when it was delayed or canceled in the beginning, we ran the 2020 season as it would have happened every single day up until the season started in late July. So that kind of started this Strat content program that we've done, and we've had a lot of networks and media contact us for running simulations, and we've picked up recently a lot of broadcasters and writers have reached out for various simulations. I know for Ozzie Guillen, we took the 3 pitchers that he would have most liked to have faced and ran a simulation of 10 at-bats against each of them. So just, various sims. And it's really, the great thing about Strat-O-Matic is we have 150 years worth of baseball history to work with. And I know we always do as gamers, we always play, what if DiMaggio and Ted Williams actually got traded for each other, and run that out. That we're now bringing this to as content for these various media outlets. So it's been a pretty cool program that has been very successful so far.
It's been a good year for Strat when it comes to baseball announcers. There's been a lot of talk about Strat this year. Yankees and the Mets, the Cubs. Mike Kruko talking about John Miller's daily team on my Giant Sports broadcast.
So, yeah.
That is one. If you're out there, John, dude, any day you want to come in, he would be my dream, dude. He is one of my, he's the guy, him talking about announcing his own Strat teams. The fact that happened has benefited my life with him as the announcer for the Giants so much. Just that part of Strat-O-Matic alone, the fact that it gave me John Miller in my life, I could never be thankful enough, because and of course I watched the, talk about the Strat content, was the All-Star game. I was watching it. I was watching it on YouTube last year.
Yeah, that was with Drew Carey and Slim Jim Phantom. I think Carey took the American League, Slim Jim took the National League, and Slim Jim ended up winning. But yeah, that was such a cool thing. Drew Carey, both of them big Strat-O-Matic fans.
Is it Drew? Was it Drew or was it John?
That was the All-Star game. The All-Star game was Drew Carey.
Oh.
And Slim Jim Phantom. John Miller, again, he does play 365 all the time. He's great. But Miller, for this 2020 season sim that we had done, he took the Giants opening day.
That's where I
and Dave Fleming, the two of them, created this video around the Giants home opener. And Fleming's kids are in there. There's this really well-produced video that they did. It was really great.
Yeah, I totally blew that. That's right. It was Drew. I was thinking, and it was John and Dave did that video at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So and John's the best. He's the best broadcaster, but he's such a great guy, and yeah, he's a huge. I know Fleming's played Strat-O-Matic too. They all, he plays against a couple other people there, so it's pretty
that's
great
awesome.
thing.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and obviously, Keith Hernandez mentioned Strat-O-Matic often and on Mets games and about Strat ratings.
That's cool that so many players have played too, and it's had that type of impact on the game as well. Not with just the guys who want to talk about the game, but also the guys that play.
Yeah, they all they all noticed before sabermetrics came out. Strat-O-Matic, you could tell the value of a walk, and it's influenced a lot of people who are within the game of MLB itself, within the game of baseball itself. I know there are current general managers out there who played Strat-O-Matic, and some that still do, and people high up in our organization. So it's influential.
Well, we have the ties here with the A's and Billy Bean in Northern California too. So I think it's amazing how life and art imitate each other and go back and forth. I think this is a perfect example of the way that the baseball influenced the game and the game influenced baseball.
Yeah.
Just because it's made you think about the game differently, and no. Definitely. What I learned about on base was in the 1980s when I was playing Strat-O-Matic.
Yeah, it's bolded for a reason. The walk chance is bolded for a reason. It's it's just drafting players. You know how to correctly build a team. If you're building a successful Strat-O-Matic team, transfers over.
Uh-huh. What game is your favorite to play? Baseball, basketball, hockey? Do you have or the 365? Which is your favorite?
Favorite's baseball. I think it's actually a tougher question than I would think. But baseball is the one that I certainly play the most, and I've created leagues. But I mean, the football game is such a great head-to-head chess game, and I've never hockey. I've always played, replay. Same with basketball, just replays. But baseball would certainly be my favorite. It's one that I've just grew up on.
Mm-hmm. Do you play more card and dice, computer, or Strat 365 now?
Now more computer.
Computer.
Just solo games. I stopped playing draft leagues. I felt I shouldn't really do that if I'm creating the cards. Yeah. Don't really feel it's not that I would. Well, I didn't want other people to feel uncomfortable that they're playing against me.
Yeah, I can see.
I don't want to feel that I had an advantage. So even if it's older seasons that I didn't do, but yeah, less cards and dice. Young kids and family. It's hard to do that now than it was before then. But so more windows right now.
Oh, very cool. I think that's another aspect of the game that when we're talking about, not only do you have the abilities to play the 3 different levels on card, but also having the different formats. Because like you said, now this step in your life has changed, and I don't have the ability as much for the time or the space to roll out and have my game out, but the computer game is right there for me, and I've really gotten into playing the Strat 365. I like being able to play in the competition against other people, other places, and not to have the league end at 120 games instead of us getting through a whole 162. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Yeah.
So nice, but that's going to happen. You know what I mean? Life doesn't. The computer rolls the game anyways, even if life gets in the way that day. So
yeah. Well, yeah, it's different time commitments to each one. 365 certainly it's an easier way to get started. You draft that team, which is by far the most important part of aspect of that game is the draft and or waivers anyway if you're in a auto draft league. Mm-hmm. But just setting your lineups and the game simulates a 3-game series every night. And tell you though, if those guys. If you join an ATG leagues, those guys are good. It's not easy.
I play in all 3 tournaments every year, and that is the most murderous one of the tournaments is the Barnstormers, because those guys know that set so well. It's amazing. It truly is amazing. I mean, it's a lot easier to break into into the playoff rounds in the players using the yearly set or in the mystery tournament, where there's no doubt there's a little bit of luck in the fact of, did I get the good card or did I not get the good card? And there are times when you can fix a team there, and there's times when you just pull too many bad cards at the beginning that it's just unfixable. We got a guy. I have a 24-man league actually using the 70 set. So we have to play with the special rules where how many catchers we have and all that, and we're doing that. And there's a guy who's a pretty good guy that plays pretty well, and I think he's got the worst card of every single guy he's got, and it's murderous. It's murderous because there's nobody left on the pile at all, so it's just brutal. You're like, how could you get like the worst card out of like 7 out of these 8 guys? But he has. It's bad. It's bad.
What's your favorite set on 365?
Oh, I think I like playing the 80s mystery set, but I don't want to say it, but I got a really good strategy on the 60s mystery set because it's got to me, it's such a set that's so skewed in certain ways.
Yeah.
If you just go like opposite the stream and just really go hard that way, you could beat some people at it. But I like that 80s mystery league set. It's very fun. In our first episode, I had John Carter, the guy that does that mystery card tournament, on. Really nice guy. I'm gonna have to have him back on. Him and his brother play the hockey game, so I'm gonna have them teach me the hockey game here on the show sometime. So
that'll be great.
Yeah. Okay, so for how do people find out more information about both the after school program and the Strat content?
Yeah, Strat content on our website, Strat-O-Matic.com, and of course, if you're interested in the after school program and want to see lessons plans that we have, or interested in starting a club in your own school, you contact customer service at Strat-O-Matic.com, and we'll get you set up.
Very cool. Thank you so much for being here with me today, John. I had a great time, and dude, anytime that you guys have anything, dude, let me know. I would love to have you on, and the fact that you do the computer game, I'd love to have you on sometime to talk to you more about the computer game. It's really, I've never played it before. So where I played a lot of cards and I played a lot of 365, the computer game is one area that I want to learn a lot more about. And one of the big things that I want to do on this show is introduce the other aspects of the game to us. I really mean that when I say that it's for and by students of Strat-O-Matic, because you listen to even the guys that have played for 30 years, they're learning something about the game all the time still too. It's amazing.
Yeah, the Windows game has so much in there that, like you said, people who've played for 30 years, or however long the Windows game has been around now, it's you'll still find stuff that you didn't realize was in there. It's so in depth, and you're able to do so much with it.
I've heard that. I've heard that people that play it, from a number of people that have played it, they really enjoy playing it, and that it takes over for them a little bit sometimes. For like with you, when life picks up and things like that, you have more things that's the way that they can stay into playing Strat-O-Matic if they're not into playing in with the online leagues against everybody else and they want to work on their own projects. That it's really a great way to do some of those things in a truncated time period compared to what you were doing with a card and dice. So I think that's really good. And I want to have some stuff on there for those of our listeners that play that, and also I want to get into it so that those guys like me don't have any trepidation about diving in. So it'd be wonderful. Thank you so much, John. Have a very good afternoon. We will be back with more Strat-O-logy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. A huge thank you today to John Garcia, our roundtable, Sir Peter, Sir Charles, Sir Dave, and Sir Tony, our regular cast of characters behind the scenes, Andrew Burkham, Joaquin Lewis III, Carolyn Snyder, Jimmy Dees. A special thanks to our music man, Jeff Teczon. All the music you heard today was written and produced by Jeff. If you'd like to support the show, a great way is to rate us wherever you get your podcasts, or like us or follow us on social media. Check out the website at www.strat-o-logy.com or call us on the toll-free number 855-888-0096. Hey Jeff, can you play us out?
You got it, Jimmy James.
Find us every Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, on 365 Sportscast radio streaming service. Download the app. Makes it crazy easy to listen. See you next week. Same Strat time, same Strat channel.
Jimmy James.
You're listening to the 365 Sportscast Network, the streaming future of sports talk radio. Listen to us round the clock on the net over 365sportscast.com. On your phone with the 365 Sportscast app, and on your favorite smart speaker by enabling the 365 Sportscast skill and saying, "Play 365 Sports." The views, opinions, and content of the show hosts and their guests appearing are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of 365 Sportscast LLC, its owners and partners, or this network.